Influence of the Renaissance, Part 2. The ruins of St. Paul's, a famous landmark in Macau, is a standing testimony of a religious conflict developed in Europe 5 centuries ago. It is also a standing testimony of the work of the missionary to spread the good news of God in regions far away from home. The ruins of St. Paul's actually refer to the facade of what was originally the Church of Mater Dei, which means Mother of God, built in 1602 to 1640, and the ruins of St. Paul's College. This college stood adjacent to the church. Both of them were destroyed by a fire in 1835. As a whole, the old Church of Mater Dei, St. Paul's College, and Martin Fortress were all Jesuit constructions. They were all built by the missionaries of the Society of Jesus. This facade has 3 parts: the base, the intermediate part, as well as the top. The base is made up of 2 stories representing the earthly world. The intermediate part is located in the center of the facade. At the top of the facade, you can see a 2-story structure representing the divine world. So, what kind of message does the facade want to convey to the believers? If we want to understand the message or the teachings conveyed by the facade, we have to focus upon the important role played by Mother Mary in the salvation of human beings. According to the Catholics, Mother Mary played an important role in our salvation. And actually, this teaching was illustrated clearly by this facade. We have mentioned just now, the base of the facade is made up of 2 stories representing the earthly world. At the same time, we can also say that the base of the facade represented the Catholic Church. Actually, under the guidance of the Catholic Church, the people of the earthly world would then be able to show their respect for Mother Mary and offer their prayers to Mother Mary. Mother Mary, being so merciful, would play her important middleman role between God and man. She would ask God to bestow His grace and blessing on our mortals, so that we would be able to ascend into heaven when we die. However, such a belief of the Catholics led them into conflicts with the Protestants during the Protestant Reformation. So, what was the Protestant Reformation? The Protestant Reformation was a religious movement developed in Europe in the 16th century. The movement began when some Protestants, or when some Catholics, tried to reform the Catholic Church. However, it ended up with the establishment of some Protestant churches. The term Protestant was not initially applied to the reformers. However, it was later used to describe all those people who protested against the Roman Catholic beliefs and practices. So, what did the Protestants believe in? Simply put, the Protestants believed that there is no need for us to pray to Mother Mary for our salvation, and it was also unnecessary for us to depend on the Catholic Church in order to get into heaven. Why? Because the Protestant believed that our salvation is located not in the church, not in an organization, but through our faith in Christ. When we develop strong faith in the mercy of Jesus Christ and the willingness of God to bestow His blessing, which was the message of the Bible, we would be able to ascend into heaven. Certainly, the Protestant Reformation was not only brought about by the difference of religious beliefs. There were some other reasons that helped to bring about the outbreak of the Protestant Reformation, which would include the corruption of the Catholic Church, the controversy over the sale of the indulgences, abuse of power by the Pope, and the immorality of the Catholic clergy. In this presentation, we'll only focus upon one of these factors, the controversy over the sale of the indulgences. What were the indulgences? Indulgences were sold by Pope Leo X because he needed large sum of money to build St. Peter's Basilica. Indulgences were pardons issued by the Pope that people could buy to reduce their soul's time in purgatory. Purgatory is the place where the people would go to when they are not qualified to get into heaven. Martin Luther and some Protestants, or maybe some reformers of the Catholic Church, objected to such an idea because they think that the Church are actually encouraging people to buy the forgiveness of God. Martin Luther expressed his disagreement in his famous 95 Theses. So, who was Martin Luther? Martin Luther was a German monk. He was also a professor of theology at the University of Wittenberg. When he studied the New Testament, he developed a belief that Christians are saved not through their own efforts, say for example buying indulgences, doing good things, but by the gifts of God's grace, which we would accept in faith. When he developed such an idea or beliefs, in 1517, he made known his religious belief. In his famous 95 Theses, he posted the list of these 95 Theses against the indulgences on the church door in the town of Wittenberg. He also sent the list to the church leaders. He also did other things as well. Say, for example, he translated the Bible into German. However, he has no intention to create a new church. He just wanted to reform the Catholic Church. But the Pope excommunicated him, and Martin Luther therefore set up the Lutheran Church. There were also other reformers who agreed with the ideas of Martin Luther. For example, in Switzerland, there are two reformers, Ulrich Zwingli and John Calvin. The reformers got an unexpected ally in England. In England, the Reformation began with King Henry VIII. He was a famous king who had 6 wives. However, he needed a male to preserve his throne, but his first wife was not able to produce a male heir. Therefore, he asked for the permission of the Pope of the Catholic Church to divorce with his wife. The Pope did not allow him to do so because it was against the teaching of the Catholic Church for us to divorce with our couple. Therefore, in 1534, King Henry VIII decided to form the Church of England, which was also known as the Anglican Church. He was made the only supreme head on earth of the Church of England by the Parliament, but some people in England refused to accept Henry VIII as the head of the church. But since that he was the king, these people who objected to him were executed for treason. With the formation of these different Protestant churches, the Catholic Church lost some of their believers. To respond to the situation, they initiated the Counter-Reformation movement, which lasted for more than a century. The Counter-Reformation movement included a number of responses. First of all, the Council of Trent was called by the Catholic Church. In this council, the Catholic Church agreed not to sell the indulgences, and they also believed that the priests of the Catholic Church should be better educated, and they should also improve their discipline. However, they rejected all the Protestant teachings. To declare their opposition to the Protestant teachings, the Catholic Church set up the Roman Inquisition. They told the Europeans a list of books that they should not read. At the same time, they would also execute those peoples who were accused of supporting the Protestant ideas and engaging in heretic practices. At the same time, the Catholic Church also permitted the formation of some new religious orders. These religious orders were created to perform charity and good work. At the same time, they would also promote the spread of the church by preaching and teaching. One of these new religious orders that was permitted to form was the Society of Jesus. This religious group was founded by St. Ignatius Loyola in 1540. The Society of Jesus set up many schools so that students could be taught to become Catholics. The schools started by the Jesuits offered a wide curriculum which covered humanities, philosophy, theology, maths, and science. Now here is a short presentation about the Protestant Reformation and the Counter-Reformation of the Catholic Church. The authors of our textbook also believed that the Protestant Reformation was an impact of the Renaissance. The authors wrote, "The Renaissance changed people's attitude towards the Christian Church." You may understand this Christian Church as the Catholic Church. People no longer accepted everything the Catholic Church told them, and they started to question its unreasonable teachings. This led to the Reformation in the 16th century. So the basic idea is that Renaissance changed people's attitude. When their attitude changed, they started to question the unreasonable teachings of the Church. So this caused Reformation. However, we can discuss this claim further, although you can cover this point definitely in the examination when you are asked to write about the impact of the Renaissance. The author seems to imply that Reformation was brought about by the Renaissance, or maybe it was brought solely about by the Renaissance. However, is that a fair judgment? Actually, before Martin Luther, there were some other reformers. As early as the 14th century, we can find that there was an Englishman demanding reform of the Catholic Church. He was John Wycliffe. He was interested in the authority of the clergy, but he believed that people should be able to interpret and read the Bible on their own. In a sense, he is questioning the authority of the Pope of the Catholic Church. Other than him, there was another reformer in the 14th century. he was Jan Hus. He wanted bishops elected by the people and not by the Pope. Since that his idea was so different from the practices of the Catholic Church, therefore he was burned to death. Now, these early reformers started to demand the Catholic Church to introduce reform in the 14th century, and we also know that the Renaissance was a cultural movement that started in Europe in the 14th century. So, in a sense, both the Reformation or the early phase of the Reformation started at about the same time as the Renaissance. Can we say for sure that the Renaissance could influence the early reformers of the Catholic Church? You can think about it. Goodbye.